You're listening to the Rogers Sporting Goods Podcast with Patrick Fisher,
Chandler Smith,
and Josh from Outdoor Limits.
In this podcast, we'll touch on everything from gear to ducks to deer, turkey and fishing. From field to table, let's dive in. Like a McDonald's heat lamp back here.
Back here.
Yeah.
Like 4 French fries.
Should be glad they're LEDs.
We're like the
That's
last,
how McDonald's makes their
we're like the last 4 French fries in the...
All soggy.
Just soggy, been cooked all day. We never make the...
Just laying in a bed of salt.
Yeah. Just heating up. Because you know there's one that never makes it out of there
Oh, 100%.
to get eaten.
I hate it when I get the bottom of the fry.
They scoop the
it's a
fresh ones, but man, that charred one that's like a knife.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking
The
about.
little skinny one.
The little skinny one.
Sharp edge.
Sharp edge.
And you know you get the bottom of the French fries when your French fries are all like an inch and a half long.
Oh, man.
Yeah, that's the worst.
I don't like it.
No.
You just get the little...
What's your favorite
the
fast
little minnow fries.
I was
All
getting
right.
ready to ask that.
Like what's the best French fry place?
Oh.
That's
Like
a tough
Five Guys?
Yeah.
Hey, that's up there on
Would you
French
consider-
fries.
Do they have a drive-through?
No.
No.
Has to have a drive-through.
Okay.
Drive-through fries.
Does Freddy's have a drive-through?
Yes.
They do.
Honestly, McDonald's
Freddy's fries are a little
pretty
overrated.
hard to beat. The problem with Freddy's for me is I
They're so
can't
small.
eat them as quick as I want because they're so
100%.
small.
So I figured out a hack for the Freddy's fries. You get a fork and you dump your fry sauce on top of the fries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you just eat them with the
You
fork.
gotta-
That's just straight up American right there.
No, it's not.
just-
That's how Europeans eat their fries.
So are you a one fry at a time eater, or do you just like
I'm
a handful?
I'm like a 3 fry.
crab claw.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm an animal. Like I'll just grab as many as I can fit in my
And
hand
then-
and face.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm in a ketchup mode. So growing up, like you go to McDonald's and the little Dixie cups, you can't get a good scoop, you know.
No.
So I would get two of the lids,
Like a drink lid.
the drink lid together, and go over there and just mound of ketchup.
What's your French fry place?
Honestly, McDonald's is probably... I mean, that's a tough... They put cocaine in their fries.
I like Whataburger fries.
They're salt decent. Like
Whataburger fries are solid, but also Culver's crinkle cuts,
Yeah.
good. Waffle fries, overrated.
Wendy...
I do like some
Wendy's
waffle
had
fries though.
Decent. We used to
Chick-fil-A
do
waffle
the-
fries.
Yeah, waffle fries. That's an underrated one.
Yeah. Chick-fil-A with the
Unless you get
Chick-fil-A
the
sauce.
end cap waffle fry.
Yeah,
which
even that
doesn't
could be
have
good.
any
So-
waffle through it. It's just the...
Yeah.
like
It's just a
super-
thick potato.
Yeah.
It's like a waffle steak fry.
Ooh, don't
Yeah.
forget about Arby's curly fries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the curly fries can
Same
hit
thing
the
there,
spot.
though.
We can't come up with one place.
Here's the deal. It might be worse to get the bottom of the barrel curly fries because there's no curl. It's just the stubs.
Yeah, and they're hard.
Than bottom of the barrel French fries.
Yeah.
I want a good curl, like pull it out like a slinky.
Yeah.
But those
That
ones
would
aren't very
be
crispy.
legit. Well, yeah, they got it. So, like I said, Five Guys though, I order mine.
By the bag.
Well, I'll say crispy or like extra, whatever you do, extra crispy.
You can do that.
Yeah. Sonya doesn't like that. The wife likes them how they come. The good thing about Freddy's,
Five Guys.
sorry, Five Guys, is they give you plenty.
And
There's a
malt vinegar.
Good
Oh, yeah.
serving. Ooh, malt vinegar. Speaking of malt vinegar, put that on a fish.
Yeah.
Well, malt vinegar
some
on
money.
fish.
Oh yeah.
I remember doing like the
Like fish and chips, throw a little malt vinegar on it all. Did that in England.
we do like Captain D's on Sunday. They do all you can eat fish.
Oh, really?
What?
Yeah. And then malt vinegar.
Like all you can
on
eat
there.
catfish?
Yeah. I don't know if it was catfish. They said
Right.
it was fish.
Now we're getting back to subject.
We are kind of
Slowly.
Catfish.
We're turning back around. And I was watching Theo Vaughn's this past weekend, and he had Luke Combs on, and they were talking about the McFish or the Filet-O-Fish.
Filet-O-Fish?
And it says it's wild-caught Alaskan pollock.
Cod? It used to be
Wild caught?
Wild-caught. And both of them go, no way. That McFish is not wild-caught. And they call it a patty. The Filet-O-Fish patty.
Okay. What was the fish again?
The
pollock.
Alaskan pollock.
It's probably going to look like a cod.
I would imagine it's just some white.
It's probably some trash fish.
Ask Mr. Lyons.
Let's see here.
We don't get many pollocks around Missouri.
Does the resident fish biologist have any idea?
Outside of my expertise, to be honest with you.
Is it?
What's it look like?
I've heard of them.
It's more.
I'm trying to figure out how they're harvested, like in I don't know what.
I'm just saying, wouldn't you think?
Trawling. Oh, yeah, it says trawl gear. They're pelagic. So it's basically like a big sock you pull through the water, and it catches them in that way. Yeah.
You drag a sock like a net kind of thing.
Essentially, yeah.
And then you just drag it through a certain water
area.
depth, and you can just pick them up.
Yeah.
That's fishing.
Yeah.
I don't know about fishing. That's
It's
harvesting.
efficient.
That's hard. Is that what it looks like?
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
That's what I'm eating.
yeah, but they've definitely dressed it up. Doesn't look like that though.
Look at all the fins. One,
Yeah.
two.
It does have a lot of fins.
I wonder why.
Hopefully
So
for
you-
speed out
you
there.
But it's
don't eat it?
Alaskan. That's why.
Yeah. Huh.
Anyways,
Well, it tastes good because I do like a filet fish with cheese.
You actually eat those?
Yeah. As an-
Who actually goes to
as an-
McDonald's and says, I want a filet of
Actually, I don't
Hayden's like
anymore.
wanting to talk right now, but we took a mic away from him, so he's like,
Yeah.
he's like begging to say something about the Filet-O-Fish.
Yeah.
Some people do.
I do.
Yeah.
So you're like driving in your car, you're like, a filet of fish sounds pretty good right now.
Oh, I'll eat the filet of fish as an appetizer. I'll eat that on the drive home.
Yeah,
Pound down the filet of fish before I get to my cheeseburger.
What about the fries?
Yeah, the fries are gone too. I'm a car eater.
Yeah, I can't
I'm
wait
the
till I get
person
home.
you stare at.
You can't wait to get home.
There's no way.
I'm
yeah.
the person you stare at the intersection. and I'm over there.
Yeah.
You're driving with your knees leaving the parking lot.
Oh, yeah. You barely made it out of the parking lot, one sandwich down.
Yep.
You wait till you get home, like you're on your way home. So if you spill anything,
Yes.
you're not at work with a ketchup stain on your shirt or anything like that.
Yeah.
No wonder I was fat, Chandler.
Car eater.
Car eater.
Man, I was a car eater.
You eating a shake today?
I'm going to shout out myself. It's been a month.
Already?
I've lost 20 pounds.
Wow.
Yep. So, just over, right around 20.
Feeling good?
So, yes, much better. I finally
believe it.
got my eating habits down. No McDonald's.
No filet of fish.
No, none of that. That's not on a good diet plan. And you can't afford it nowadays anyways. I like
Yeah.
it. They still call it do they still
Value
call it a
menu?
value menu? Like, value in what?
Yeah.
What? Anyways,
Perceived value.
I digress. But if you're listening and you're not watching on video, you've probably heard some random voice chiming in. And we got a special guest on the podcast today. He comes to us from the MDC. His name is Cade Lyon.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
And he is the fisheries biologist.
If you're not from Missouri,
Really
MDC.
from this area.
It's Missouri Department
Yeah,
of
MDC is
Conservation.
Missouri
sorry.
Department of Conservation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not everybody listening on
Good
this is
looking
from
out.
Missouri.
So yeah, we brought him in. It's springtime. Everybody's fishing. And I thought it'd be nice to bring on a fishing biologist.
Yeah.
So he manages, make sure I got this right, all the MDC lakes in Jackson, Cass, Lafayette, Clay, and Platte counties, as well as the Missouri River.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
It's kind of home base
At least
for
that's
you.
what you
Yeah,
sent
it
me.
is. Yeah.
That's
No,
kind of
that's
cool.
right. Yeah.
So unless you lied,
No, I was truthful, and I didn't say this in the email, but I do private land responsibilities in Clay and Platte counties. So if private landowners can contact me for any questions with their private ponds they have, I can go out there and help them do site visits, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got a story about that. I guess I'll say it now, but I was just talking to our boss, Stevie. He had, I don't know if it was last July or 2 Julys ago. We had a 90 something degree day, high 90s, maybe mid 90s. And then it dropped to like a 70 degree cold front. Then he had like a fish kill because the oxygen wasn't too hot because of that temperature swing. And he called the MDC. And I don't know if it was you because he's out in Platte or Clay, but someone came within an hour. He answered the phone first call, and they got to his pond within an hour and did test the water and looked at the oxygen levels and everything and determined that it wasn't a full fish kill, it was just a partial or whatever, that type of thing. So that was a cool experience. He thought it was great that someone answered and was there in an hour.
That's pretty crazy.
For like a free public kind of
to determine
service, Yeah.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
So
I was looking up fish kills. It was on their website. So
Yeah.
you brought that up. I was looking up, like it shows all these different fish kills and then what happened, how much money did it cost, how many fish died.
Yeah. That's kind of something maybe we can get into. But before we do that, like you went to school for this, kind of go over kind of your background and what maybe got you into working with fish for the MDC.
Yeah. So I went to Northwest Missouri State. I got my bachelor's in wildlife ecology. And then I remember it was my last semester before graduating, and I was like, man, I want to work with like deer, turkey, and like do something with wildlife. And I had no idea about fisheries. I grew up fishing like farm ponds, just at my grandma's place, and didn't really even know that was an option. And I applied on a whim for an hourly position at Pony Express Lake with a fisheries biologist. I was like, I don't want to pigeonhole myself. I want to try and see if I'm going to like this, and I got that job and I haven't looked back since.
Really?
So I did that and then worked in St. Joe for a little bit doing the same type of thing, helping out fisheries management biologists with community surveys, habitat improvement on public lakes, that sorts of thing. And then I kind of switched gears over to the pal sturgeon project that's still ongoing. And that was located out of Northwest Missouri. Pal sturgeon, for those who don't know, is a federally endangered species of fish in the Missouri River. And so monitoring those populations of those fish as well as the whole community as a whole in the river. And then I remember I was trying to break through. I was still working for the MDC, but I didn't have a full-time position yet. I wanted to be a biologist or even like the step below. Like at that time they were called technicians. But it used to be so competitive, and I was like, man, I got to go back to school. I didn't want to go back, but I talked myself into it, and I went to South Dakota State University for my master's degree. Spent 3 years up there. Got my degree in fisheries science. My thesis was looking at walleye population dynamics and then hooking mortality of walleye in South Dakota. And then, after that, I went to the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, helping out grad students with their research on the Missouri River too. And then after that, in March of 2022, I got this job as a fisheries biologist. So I kind of did a full circle and came back home.
Wow.
It's pretty cool.
When you say the hooking mortality, like, is it how it sounds?
Yeah, so it's basically, the mortality associated with catching and then releasing a fish, basically. Okay. So I was specifically looking at depth as a factor of walleye hooking mortality. So you know how like divers get the bends? Mm-hmm. It's kind of like that. Yeah, fish are the same way. We found if you catch them below about 10 meters, so about 33 feet, you're going to start to see a sharp spike in hooking mortality as a result.
Okay. Gotcha.
And that kind of comes into play with regulations that, require catch and release, like minimum length limits, like in Smithville.
I was gonna ask about in South Dakota. I don't know all their different bodies of water, if it's statewide, whatever's going on, but there's probably some hooking or catch and release for walleye based off, either slots or length limits.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. A lot of the lakes have, up there specifically, just have a 4 bag limit with no minimum. But some of the lakes that do have that 15-inch minimum, you're required to throw that fish back. And we found, 20% of those fish that you're throwing back would die as a result of hooking. So it's a pretty serious. It can cause substantial changes in the population.
Of the 33, or like the deep ones, or 20% across the board, kind of. That was the number.
We saw 20% as a whole.
As a whole,
of the population. Yeah,
not just the ones that came from, 10
exactly.
meters.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's crazy. So you got into a little bit of fishing, and it looks like you went back to school because you fell in love with that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So Pony Express, huh? Was the first place.
Yeah, that was the first place. Yeah.
Pat, you've been up there before, right?
Yeah. I always say it's odd because it says you can catch muskie there.
Yeah, they used to stock it way back in the day.
Is there any muskie left?
I don't know.
That you know of?
Hasn't been stocked in a long time.
When was the last time they shocked it, or I don't know. Do they shock Pony Express?
Yeah, they still sample it. I don't know when the last time they stocked muskie. It's probably a long time ago. When I worked there, they had signs that had like a warning for muskie eating geese.
Really?
They would just blow up on the surface on like a duckling or whatever. But even back then, they weren't stocking it. So
it's wild.
That.
Can you imagine that being a duckling?
You're just out there with your bobber trying to catch a bluegill, and you just see a gosling just get smoked by a muskie.
Imagine being duck hunting out there.
I can't imagine a muskie in Missouri is going to grow to be 40 inches.
Yeah.
That was the first thing I thought that was interesting about Pony. That was the first thing I noticed. I'm like, muskie? What?
What's the most abundant sport fish in that lake?
In Pony?
Yeah. Probably catfish?
I don't know. Does it have crappie? Is it a good crappie? I don't know.
There is crappie. I don't know if it's that great, though.
I've heard a lot of, without giving away all the secrets, I've heard some catfishing. A lot of people go to catfish there. But anyways. Doesn't Pomme de Terre have muskie?
Pomme de Terre is a muskie.
Yeah.
Yep. My son's grandpa did muskie guiding down there.
Oh, yeah.
His grandpa.
Really?
They call him the muskie man.
Really?
Yeah. Because
cool.
His catch rate was so much higher than everybody else's.
Really?
Yeah, he just figured it out. And they would it was crazy.
Never caught one.
All the muskie they would catch.
I haven't even seen one, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a one fish I haven't seen.
So, yeah. So, Pat, we had like a Pat's Panfish report last week. Did you say something about the sturgeon, or what was that thing you had last week?
We talked about,
or Josh had something.
You were coming in this week.
Yeah, I think we're saving it for
We saved it. We didn't actually talk about it.
Yeah.
Do you know what it is?
Probably gone now.
It just left his brain for a week.
Yeah. Is
this the same notepad?
No, probably not.
It was lake sturgeon.
It was lake sturgeon
in the river.
Lake sturgeon
Mississippi River.
Did you text it to us, Josh, or did you?
Yeah, I texted it to you.
They
guys.
were coming
TikTok.
back, or
yeah, it's something along the lines of how there's a lake sturgeon coming back to Missouri.
We're spawning.
They were spawning, and they're on the Osage now. Is that
Osage? What it was? They were, yeah.
I think I think it's that.
Yeah, I can't remember the technology they used, but you could see them going around and swimming and spawning.
You know that guy?
I don't.
Looks like a guy I went to college with.
Oh yeah, you sent it.
You sent it through text.
Sent it through text.
I'm not listening to it on audio.
Yeah,
but it's kind of telling a story about lake sturgeon.
Yeah, just like that. Yeah, they kind of come up on.
Oh yeah, so that's them spawning and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
they're just like beaching
nothing of water, like almost beaching themselves.
It's kind of funny.
They were finding the caviar on the rocks.
Nice.
That's really cool.
Yeah. Okay, so that's what it was. So lake sturgeon.
They're making a comeback.
Which is different than the pallid sturgeon.
So you were working on the pallid sturgeon.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that, because I guess I'm just kind of curious.
Tell us about sturgeon.
Well, so pallid sturgeon, they're federally endangered in the Missouri River. They think a lot of it has to do with the lack of habitat for sturgeon. So The Missouri River is channelized for transportation of goods,
Right.
That's not really conducive to what the pallid sturgeon specifically, need to spawn. There's been a lot of research done to trying to figure out like how we can improve that habitat, how we can improve, give them areas to spawn out and successfully recruit to the system again. And so when I was there, we did a lot of work with pallid sturgeon, catching them, and then also the community as a whole, like I said, so all the fish in the river, suckers and cyprinids and that sorts of things, and kind of checking on their status as well. Now they're focusing on, to my knowledge, tagging females with acoustic tags and kind of tracking them around the river and kind of doing more of like a focusing on the pallid sturgeon. It's kind of seeing where they're spawning at, what habitats they're using. And yeah.
What did you say their issue was with their spawning? Was it with levels or
The Missouri River is like too fast for
too
them.
fast?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We've sped it up.
Yeah.
Because it's so channeled.
It's so
There's nothing
channelized.
to stop
Gotcha.
the flow from
Yeah.
being. Okay.
So like historically, the river was a lot wider and a lot slower, and there's tons of like it was called a braided channel. So like there were tons of different channels moving through that floodplain, and it was a lot slower water. It gave the chances for not only pallids, other fish to spawn out. So when we see flood events like 2019, I think was the last flood event around here, you're going to see kind of an increase in recruitment from like blue suckers and things like that. Where they're going to come up on that floodplain where the water's a little slower. All that flooded habitat's good for them to kind of come out there and spawn, and it's good for the population, which is not good for our infrastructure,
Yeah. Right.
But
So I'm on like this U.S. Fish and Wildlife page with pallid sturgeon, and they got some markers here on the Mississippi, Two Rivers and Clearance Cannon. Are these places working with pallids, or do they have any sanctuaries, or do you know anything about them?
I'm not sure actually.
And I don't know what they're there for. They might just be, I don't know, they might just be highlighted on the map.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they had specific correlation to pallid sturgeon or not.
I'm not sure. I know they might. I'm not sure. I don't want to say anything.
It's federally.
Yeah, they're federally endangered. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
pallid sturgeon.
So
are.
there's not really a good population of them. Well, where's their best population in the United States?
It's kind of funny. The population, as like in terms of like numbers, isn't that bad because we've stocked them. So early 2000s, we kind of realized what was happening, and we're like, oh, we got to really get on top of this. So we started using hatcheries to artificially stock the Missouri River with those fish, and they can actually be stocked really, really well. They recruit very well after stocking. Some fish don't, but I think the population is doing okay. It's just they can't replace themselves and recruit.
Gotcha. Yeah. So you go out. Yeah, I get it.
So that's kind of why they're still endangered, because if we stopped all that right now, they'd probably wouldn't be doing very well.
What's the main? Where's the main hatchery? Is there a main one for hatchery in Missouri?
So there used to be one in Blind Pony, which is east of here, an hour or so.
Sounds about right.
They used to do it out of there. I don't think they do that anymore, though. A lot of the hatcheries, or a lot of the stocking comes out of the one below Gavin's Point.
Is that in the Carthage area, or
what's that?
I'm trying to think of this one I always see the signs for driving down like Roaring River or something. There's one more in the southern Missouri side of things, but
no, the Blind Pony is like east of here, east of Kansas City. I'm trying to think of where it's like Marshall. It's off of I-70, and you kind of take it and go north a little bit. But the one that does the main portion of stocking now is there's a hatchery. It's a federal hatchery below Gavin's Point Dam in South Dakota.
oh, okay.
Yeah, that's where a lot of it goes.
For sturgeon.
For pallid sturgeon.
Yeah.
Okay.
For pallid sturgeon.
But all the other, like your main species that you're stocking in Missouri, is there a main hatchery for that?
Yeah, so I think we have 5 hatcheries with the Conservation Department, Missouri Department of Conservation, and each one kind of specializes in its own thing.
Okay.
So like Bennett Springs specializes in trout.
Oh yeah, and they're working
That
on
makes sense.
on that
Yeah.
whole hatchery too.
Yeah, they're renovating it right now.
Yeah.
Blind Pony, like I just mentioned, they do a lot of catfish and hybrid sunfish and walleye too.
Yeah.
We have a program in the Kansas City area in St. Louis where we stock catfish bi-weekly in lakes in Kansas City to offer that angling opportunities for people in Kansas City, as well as the hybrid sunfish. And so those guys provide a lot of the fish for those programs.
Really? So you guys bi-weekly stocking catfish in like small lakes and stuff around Kansas City and St. Louis suburbs?
Yeah. So there's a lot of, we call them a CAP agreement. I can't remember what it stands for. Community Assistance Program.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a program between the Conservation Department and like a city lake or a city entity. And we kind of, hey, you guys provide the lake, we'll provide the fish, and then the anglers can kind of benefit by catching those fish. So
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's heavily used.
And then we kind of, I've seen that before on trout for like we have a Fountain Bluff and a couple other places is stocked in the winter specifically.
Yeah.
By you guys. And these are just small little lakes and stuff you can go to and catch trout in a certain time. They're not going to survive the heat of the summer, but are getting fished out. But it's a cool place for everybody to go out. And for the Kansas City area, there's not a lot of trout opportunities within 30 minutes. You'd have to drive 3 hours to go find some. So.
Exactly. Yeah. And those are, we call those put and take fisheries. So the trout are put in there and then the anglers take them out.
Yeah.
So I don't know exactly how many get taken out, but I bet it's a substantial amount.
Yeah, this year we got lucky. They had stocked Fountain Bluff in January. You can actually call and get the hotline, and it'll tell you when they stocked it. And we were able to sneak out ice fishing. We had one weekend, really a weekend and a week of ice fishing this year, I felt like. And we got to catch.
Happen often.
No, not around here. But we got to go out and catch trout on old ice rods with live scope. And it was a blast.
That's cool.
Because that little lake you can catch, I think there's crappie there, bluegill, there's probably largemouth. We didn't catch any largemouth, but you could see them on the live scope. When you saw a trout, you definitely knew it was a trout because they were so much longer, and you got really excited and you tried to get the jig right in front of their nose. And when you hooked those fought a lot better than the bluegill and crappie we were catching. So fun times. And I think there's another one, James A. Reed. No, is that the one in Kearney? I think that one's got a trout too.
They both do.
Yeah,
I can't remember what the one in Kearney's called, but there's 2 lakes on Reed that get stocked with trout.
Yeah.
That's where I fished. Ice
James A.
fishing.
Reed, you just did. Is that where you did the Creel survey?
Yeah, that's where we did the Creel survey this past year. Mm-hmm.
And when you say you're doing a Creel survey, for anybody that doesn't know, but what are you doing to conduct that? Like, what does that entail? What's that look like?
So there's a couple of different things, different ways of doing it. The way we did it, I'll kind of go backwards. Historically, James A. Reed Memorial Wildlife Area, it's in Lee Summit. It's got 11 lakes that are publicly available to use to fish. But historically, we haven't allowed any boats on those from the public whatsoever. Just before I got to this position in 2022, they started allowing boats on 4 of the lakes, and the rest of the lakes you still can't do it. So it's a little bit of concern, the lakes are kind of already withholding that pressure from boat anglers. So you're only accessible by the shore. So the middle portion of the lake you can't really touch with a lure or anything because you can't cast out that far.
Yeah.
But now we're kind of opening that up to boating with boat anglers. So there's a little bit of concern with that. And so I decided to implement a Creel survey, kind of comparing how many hours were spent by boat anglers and shore anglers on those lakes, and kind of comparing and seeing, is this impact substantial to the fish population, or is there a risk of it being substantial? And we did it all last year, starting in May to September, and we only interviewed 30 boat anglers for the whole summer, which is very surprising. I thought we'd get a lot more, but I think that it's not as bad as we think it was going to be, which is good. I think that those lakes, they're anywhere from 30 to 40 acres in size. And so I think that they're self-limiting in terms of space for those boat anglers.
Going to get a bunch of kayak guys out there.
Yeah. So it has to be hand launch only. So you can't back up a trailer down in there. You could hand launch
a John boat.
Yeah, a John boat, a 16-foot Lund if you wanted to, but you cannot use the motor. You can use electric motors though.
Gotcha.
So you have to carry it in and carry it out. So
I can't imagine it's going to see that much boat pressure then.
Yeah.
like I said, I think it's, you go out there to like Jackrabbit, for instance, it's kind of on the way to the other 3 kayak lakes. You can kind of look out and see the whole lake. And if you see 2 or 3 guys out there on kayaks, you're going to be like, well, I'll keep going and try the next lake. And if that doesn't have as much pressure, you'll put your kayak in and go fishing. So, I think they're going to be self-limiting in the future. The kayak anglers are.
Yeah.
But so during the creel survey, like to answer your question, we would do like randomly assigned shifts and have someone sit out on the access. And so when the angler comes back, we go up there and ask them questions. How many fish they caught, if they caught any fish, how long were they, what species were they, that sort of thing, whether or not they were a boat or a shore angler. And one of the questions we asked was, how satisfied are you with your fishing experience today, just today as a whole? And I did a regression on that later, a couple months ago, and found that the 2 most influential things that are affecting satisfaction on those lakes are if that angler caught the fish he was after, or if he harvested a fish. Which is kind of like, well, yeah, duh. I mean, that makes sense. But I think it kind of lends credence to the quality of our data that we collected. It's definitely that makes sense that, yeah, if I want to go out and catch a bass and I catch a bass, I'm going to be a lot happier than if I don't, So,
Yeah,
it's kind of a cool
would be
little
for
thing.
me.
Yeah.
You'd hate to go out crappie fishing all day and not catch one.
Been there, done that.
But if you caught one, I don't know. Crappie, it's like I need multiple.
I need that pile.
I need
You
I need a few.
cast it out and get hit about 3 or 4 times in a row.
One of the other things that you do a lot of work in is the community sampling for sport fish. So that's just like the lakes we're talking about, whether it's Pony or the James A. Reed, so you're just sampling sport fish. Like, what's that entail?
Yeah, so we usually just use boat electrofishing, and we'll go out there and shock up the fish. It doesn't hurt the fish at all. It just stuns them enough so we can go and scoop them up with nets and then put them in a live well. And then we'll measure them for total length, so from head to tail. And then I like to weigh some of the fish, so especially bass, because you can do a calculation and kind of estimate their health. So if it's a fat bass, then he's probably pretty healthy and he's able to survive longer. It kind of gives you a good picture of the population.
Man.
And so when you kind of lay out all the lengths out, it kind of forms these like bars, and you can see the different year classes of fish that are coming through and how well those fish are recruiting to the lake.
Do you know where any 10-pounders are? Have you shocked any double-digit largemouth?
Man, I've shocked an 8-pound on James A. Reed a few times.
Really?
Those lakes.
We might have to bleep that out.
I almost said the lake. I'm like, I'm not gonna say the lake, but it's on that area.
That area,
yeah.
General. Yeah.
If I was gonna say a good place to catch that, it'd be there. Yeah.
You never shocked a double digit though?
Not yet. No.
That's
an
hard
exceptional
for Missouri.
It's an exceptional fish.
I would say that's a great largemouth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Great life.
I'm sure it's possible. It's definitely possible in Missouri.
I've heard about a 9-pounder weighed in on a Smithfield tournament, but that's
cool.
That's the only thing. I have never heard about a double. I got a couple lakes that I'm like, man, I feel like there could be one in there one year on the right year or something. But
so it's kind of funny you brought up trout earlier and stocking them in those lakes. And so trout get stocked on plover and coot on James A. Reed, and the ones that don't get caught throughout the winter usually die. It gets so hot on those lakes.
Yeah,
I think. But we shocked them up. We shocked a couple up in May and June.
Really?
That survive. But sometimes we'll catch a bass that has a trout in its mouth.
Yeah, well, yeah.
And trout have been found to boost growth rates in bass. So I'm just saying, that's a good indicator.
Out in California.
Yeah.
Some of those spotted bass eating the trout get massive, and that makes sense. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
We always have like in the store, and does Tommy still talk about this? Everybody talks about what's better, trout or bass, like for fishing or just in general. And Tommy always brings up, well, bass eat trout, so bass wins every time. And then, so it's in the purists on the fly fishing on the trout side. We're like, no, trout's a better fish.
Sam probably going to say trout.
And then, it's kind of funny. And Tommy's like, well, bass eat trout, so bass is superior.
Rock, paper, scissors.
Well,
Yeah.
A flathead would eat a bass.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, if it was small enough.
Flathead.
Yeah, there you go.
Superior.
Low oxygen level kills everything, so boom.
But yeah, you have to show me the pinpoint where you shocked that 8-pounder.
Yeah, we'll talk after this.
Yeah.
Pinpoint it down.
Yeah, I need to lay down exactly that you went by. No, I'm kidding.
But you guys do one thing I wrote down. So, and I think you talked about it earlier. So, like personal ponds or lakes that people have created or whatever, is that something they can reach out to the MDC, get help on, maybe, what they're wanting to put in there, what to make it look like,
Yeah.
to get help on that side?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. A lot of the times, like people will call me and just like don't really know where to start with their pond. Like, I just got this property. I don't even know what's in here, how deep it is. What's, what do I do?
Oh, like an existing.
Yeah, like an existing
Okay.
pond. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And so we have a lot of resources online you can look at. The one I usually send people, it's called the Pond Handbook, and it has just about every answer to a question you'd ever need in that handbook. And I kind of give that to them, walk them through, and be like, kind of go out this summer, see what you can catch, make sure that the water depth's 8 feet, and then kind of come back to me and kind of see what kind of goals you want to set for the pond and what you have out there.
Mm-hmm.
So for our state, you need 8 foot.
Yeah, 8 foot. I would say minimum depth.
Minimum.
Yeah, so they can make it through the winter and the summertime. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That's all they need to make to the winter.
Yeah.
Wow. I would have thought it would have been a little bit deeper, but
How would somebody figure out if their pond's 8 foot?
they'd probably have to go get an 8-foot pole and get out there and push it in
Yeah.
the water or something. I don't know.
Get a raft.
Yeah.
Start swimming.
Yep.
So I mean, if they really want to know, we have a. It looks like a little rubber ducky you attach to a fishing pole. We can come out there and you cast it out there, and it's actually a depth finder.
Oh.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I bring that out a lot when people are kind of concerned about how
That's
deep
easy.
their water
Yeah.
is.
That
So
sounds
you
like
just
a
have
good
to
way to
try
do
to
it.
pick a couple spots, find the dam side or whatever,
Yeah.
and try to figure out where's the deepest spot is.
Exactly.
But do you, is there, does MDC ever help stock those? You wouldn't stock someone's personal,
No, not anymore.
Pond.
No, we don't do that anymore.
no,
No.
but used to.
I mean, I've
Or
heard
maybe-
stories. Yeah, I think we
yeah.
used to. I'm not really sure.
Gotcha.
I've heard that we. Yeah, I think we used to.
Gotcha.
Don't you just go to like Orchlands or something and buy them now?
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you can
Yeah.
buy fish from, there's different places you can buy, whatever you're wanting to stock, especially if you're building a new place, digging and all new.
Yeah, and adding
Yeah.
habitat and that
Yeah.
sort of thing.
That'd be so much fun.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
So what do you recommend people put in ponds mostly? Do you ever talk to people about like the maybe crappie
combination of
being kind
species.
of big in school, like they're big in schools and can be bullies, or you say like, if you want big largemouth, you need to do it this way. If you want a bunch of crappie for everybody to catch, every spring, you want to do it this way, or
Yeah, I mean,
kind of back and forth.
I don't like giving recommendations for crappie because it's just so hard to manage for them.
Yeah.
Because usually guys want to do that, and it takes a lot of effort to keep on top of the population.
They'll get out of control.
They
Yeah.
have a very unpredictable recruitment. So like one year they won't do very well, and the next year they'll just like explode.
Yeah.
And you just can't keep up with that harvest. So I usually don't tell people to stock crappie.
Yeah.
Honestly, I usually say bass, bluegill, catfish is a popular one too.
Yeah.
But making sure you have enough good habitat for the fishing. That comes in the form of both trees, sinking cedar trees or dropping trees on the edge of the pond, or making sure that there's good enough aquatic plants around the edge of the pond is also good for habitat. You want to really ensure that the top layer, like the all the primary producers are providing enough food for the insects, which are going to provide enough food for the little bluegill.
Yep.
They're providing enough food for the big bass you want to catch. So
Yeah, sometimes people want to manicure their pond where it's like no trees, no vegetation around it, like just perfectly
Just a golf course.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
just golf course. I'm like, man, I don't even want to fish that. I got nothing to throw at.
yeah,
Right.
Just knock a couple trees over.
Yeah, the worst thing is just walking up on like a giant bowl, a perfect circle with
Yeah.
a bowl and no habitat. I mean, you're not going to catch anything out of there.
Yeah.
It's not very conducive for fishing. So
So we went down to well, I guess his buddy of mine, and Pat. Went to Cody's. He's actually here right now. It was a friend of ours. He's changing out some HVAC stuff, but he's got a pond, and it's like that. Man, he's got some like 30+ foot trees laid down in it, and those things are. You guaranteed go to one of those laydowns and you catch whatever bluegill, huge bluegill,
16-inch crappie.
I caught a 16-inch crappie out of that place. So he does have crappie in there, which it's a pretty nice sized pond. I think it gets pretty deep, but yeah, I can believe trying to manage a population like that. But we didn't catch a bunch of crappie. Josh, you caught one maybe over 15, right?
Yeah, we caught maybe 4 or 5 throughout the day.
But they were giant crappie.
Big crappie.
That's cool.
I caught probably my biggest. So 16 was probably my biggest I caught out of there. But the bass in there were having a blast too. The good healthy fish.
How big were the bass you're catching?
Probably around 2.
Yeah.
They look good and healthy.
I know there's some decent ones in there just because I've seen photos of them
holding them up.
Yeah.
But they seemed, I felt like I caught like a certain age range when I was there. And I think it was also our spawn for largemouth because I was catching them up repeatedly, maybe on beds and stuff. So I might have been catching males, not females.
We weren't really throwing bass lures to begin with.
We were looking for big crappie, but I think 2 pounds. I didn't go out and throw like a nice jig or something that would maybe target something bigger. But the shoulders, I would call them shoulders, and the gut look pretty healthy on these fish. Yeah,
that's good. You want to see like they look like they should like go on a diet. That's like the best kind of bass to see.
Like you can catch a 2-pounder that looks fat, and that's a good sign. You know,
right?
Yeah. So
when it comes to, we kind of mentioned like the crappie limit, like at Smithville, has changed over. I don't know when did they change from the 15 to the 30? That was
had to be like 3 or 4 years ago.
3-4 years. I can't remember if it was pre-COVID or post-COVID now, but so when it comes to determining like limits, like what plays into that? Like your surveys you're doing, these creel surveys, or does that all come into the effect?
Yeah. So the surveys are kind of like a snapshot of what's going on in the lake. It's only like I picture it like a survey is like sticking your hand in a jar full of jelly beans and you pull it out. Counting all that. It kind of gives you an idea of what's going on.
Yeah, you gotta get rid of the purple ones.
Yeah, there's too many red ones.
Yeah.
But so the regulations are one of the most popular tools that we have to kind of help anglers or help us manage for the population. So, it kind of depends on the goals of the fishery. I think I wasn't part of that Smithville decision, changing that. But usually you're trying to protect a part of the population from harvest. So a slot limit, let's just say, from 12 to 15 inches, we want to harvest all the fish below that slot, so that they don't have as much competition when they're moving through the slot and they're protected. So once they come out of that slot, they get through it faster and they can reach that size faster, then grow faster. Because fish are density dependent growers. So the more competition you have between fish eating things, they're going to slow the growth down and they're going to stunt the population out.
Yeah, that's what I feel like. At least for the Smithville Lake, crappie have become, abundant. And there's a bunch of small, 8-inchers, and there's just in general, they're kind of bullies. And I think our largemouth maybe suffer a little bit based off of how much competition they have. And then, but the slot limit thing, I have a family lake house at Lake Fork, and I don't know if they're the first, but they've been doing a slot limit for a long time. 16 to 24, I believe, is their largemouth slot limit. So those are all like, and that you catch and release those. So those are great fish. 16-inch, 24-inch. That's like your 3-pounder to 8-pounder.
Yeah. That's 24 inches is a good size bass.
Yeah. I've caught some over 24s that have weighed 9 pounds. But that's like their program down there is that slot, and everything, people in that particular lake don't really keep bass in general, but they're protecting that group of fish, and they've done pretty good. I think there's a lot of double-digit bass, a lot of good healthy bass.
That's cool.
So, but I'd love to see a slot limit around here, but I don't know if it'd work. But I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. Just because it works on one lake doesn't mean it's not working on another lake. You know, everything's just so different between lakes and populations and everything. So
Smithville I think is 15 inches, right?
Yeah, 15-inch minimum.
Yeah,
For a bass?
Yeah.
yeah,
People actually put bass in their live well
yeah.
and eat them?
So, I mean, there's there's certain people out there. I mean, bass don't taste bad.
They really don't.
They really don't.
Not that. I mean, when I was younger.
Yeah, it was like the last time I cleaned a bass was in high school.
Yeah,
But when I was younger, I just kept them.
yeah. I mean, some people don't look at them like a sport fish where you catch and release
Right.
them. I mean, I catch and release now,
Yeah.
but I don't think there's anything wrong with keeping a largemouth. But we have it set up around here that you keep the 3 pounders or above. And those are but
So with
Don't they
the
have worms?
do what?
Don't largemouth have worms?
I don't know.
No.
No.
Man, I think there's definitely parasites out there that can affect fish. I think it's pretty localized though.
Mm-hmm. Someone probably told you that just to make sure you didn't eat them. Some guy on hey, them thing have worms, right? You can't eat them largemouth.
Don't eat the largemouth. They have worms.
Yeah,
You get trichinosis.
He just wanted a 5-pounder.
yeah, yeah.
Well, with the crappie thing, when we talked about, because I think yes, there was there's an abundance of them. Maybe we're trying to help out the bass. So we go to this 30, right? You can keep 15 over 9
and 15 under 9.
You can keep 15 under 9, and I don't know if you can keep 30 under 9.
No,
I don't know if it's, but I know it's the 15 and 15 split for sure. My thing is though, like we were talking about when we were walking around out there, I'm wondering though if we're succeeding in what we were trying to accomplish going to the 30, because at least from individuals I know, you go out there and they're throwing back all the ones under 9 because they're keeping the 15 over 9.
Yeah.
And a lot of times they're keeping not even 15. They'll keep 7 or 8 that are like, the 11, 12, the big ones.
Mm-hmm.
And anything under 9 they're throwing away. And it's almost like the going to the 30 limit, we're not succeeding in what we're trying to accomplish because we're just tossing them back anyways.
but I mean, I think there's plenty of people who still keep them under 9.
Sure, there's more people keeping ones under 9 now than there was before.
Yeah, well,
I think that's what's helping too.
But-
And then protecting guys from going out there and catching 30 over 9 and really taking out those fish is definitely. I mean, it was almost an immediate impact. I think it was like 2017 or something like that when they changed that regulation. Because I remember I was an hourly in that office.
yeah.
When that happened, I think.
Seems about right.
And it was almost an immediate impact. They saw a lot more of those fish over that 9-inch length. So
Okay.
I mean, granted, it's been 7 years since then, so I'm not sure how it's doing now. I don't work on that lake.
Gotcha.
But I feel like it's got to help out. I know Pat. We go out there and Josh and does the same thing. We're a little picky, but sometimes people only have a Saturday morning to go, and they're going to keep what they catch.
You're going to keep what you...
I mean, because,
And I've kept some 9s,
Yeah.
You just don't get much off of them.
Well, I think you got to, for me, thinking about it now, you just, you might keep a couple knowing that you're helping out. And the fillet might not be that great. You're just going to get some
ones.
You're going to get the crappie backstrap, and that's about it off that 8-incher.
You're going to get, you're going to get 2 niblets.
The ribs are going to be a pain in the butt.
But then 4 years from now, you're going to be catching a bunch of 12-inchers.
You got to look in the future.
The hope, anyways.
Plan for the future, people.
Yeah.
Go keep those 7-inchers.
You know what we should do? Instead of Alaska pollock, we should implement with McDonald's.
Yeah.
Have them use
8-inch
crappie
crappie.
for McFish.
Crappie patty?
Yeah.
That would help
Yeah, like a
improve
crappie cake?
populations, I bet.
Ooh, the McCrappie?
Yeah.
The McCrappie.
Yeah.
You heard it here first.
Yep.
Hayden, can we get a graphic done for the McCrappie?
Just get a crappie in between McDonald's bun.
Yep.
Do your part.
Slice of
Do
cheese.
your part.
Do your part.
Maybe we'll switch it up. We won't use just regular cheese. Do some like
something nice.
some fancy cheese.
Yeah, some feta or something.
Gouda. I like
Gouda cheese. Ooh, some Munster.
Yeah,
Well, I guess those fish that are
Munster
under 9,
cheese. And toasted bun.
yeah,
you can do them up whole.
And a crappie
like people do
slab.
bluegill.
yeah. You could.
Yeah.
I've never.
It'll be a $15 sandwich.
Yeah,
But
It's artisan.
You got to factor in the boat
Artisan.
gas and
yeah.
the gas getting there, so it's at least a $45 sandwich.
Yeah. No doubt.
So, what do you got, Pat?
There are some, on your worm side of things, but that and then invasive aquatic species, which is probably a bigger one for you, like
ANS.
looking at that invasive aquatic species. What's the, at least in your area, what are you seeing that's, going to be, is the problem right now that we're trying to.
And is there a light at the end of the tunnel?
You speaking for carp?
I'm speaking for zebra mussels.
Yeah, the two biggest ones are right now silver carp and zebra mussels. I've heard people call silver carp introduction like a natural disaster. They are just so efficient at reproducing in the Missouri River. Wherever they're at, they grow very fast. They're very fecund, which means they have tons of eggs, and they reproduce multiple times a year. And they're competing with like the smaller fish, because when a fish is small, after it hatches, it eats algae, and that's what silver carp eat, and they're filter feeders. So they're competing with just about every larval fish in the Missouri River throughout their whole life. And once they hit 10 pounds, there's not a whole lot of fish in the Missouri River besides flatheads that can take down those silver carp populations. There's been a lot of research in like Tennessee, Illinois, looking at like how much effort do we have to put in terms of like commercial harvest to knock back these populations, and trying to see if there's light at the end of the tunnel. Trying to create a market for them, for fertilizers, for fish food, for other resources. The McCarp. There we go.
The McCarp.
Hey, I don't know if you, and I'm not trying to shout out other things, but they did a carp special. I don't know if you watch it. So the guy that does the meat eater trivia.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they did a carp episode on
They
YouTube.
did a carp episode, and I didn't realize this either, but because they're talking about carp and how carp back in the day, that was the thing that everybody wanted. And we didn't have them really here. They were over, they just keep expanding. And then they would stock other places with carp because they wanted carp. Where's the carp? That's, and what I'm saying is we need to get back to eating carp. And they showed that you can cook it properly and it tastes just fine.
Yeah.
Bones.
I don't know if I've watched that episode, but I wonder where the story, came about to where it's like, you put a carp.
Because it went from good to bad.
You put, you cook a carp in a smoker on a wooden plank with some lemon and dill, and you cook it all up. And then when you get done, you throw the carp out and you eat the wooden plank. That's what I've heard my whole life.
Right.
Where did that start?
But it turned, even for me, right? Oh, I'm not going to eat a carp.
Yeah.
And then I watched that and I started thinking, yeah, why wouldn't I?
Yeah. I don't know where it started or when it started. But.
Now, they deep fried it, figuring, well, that's the,
Well, you deep fry catfish and crappie too.
Deep fry, yeah. And they loved it.
Yeah. So.
I got to be really hungry to eat a carp.
See, but that's the thing.
It's a lot of work.
But if I didn't tell you it was carp and you would just eat it and go, this is good fish,
Yeah, I haven't looked
you wouldn't know.
But they have so
that
many
it's carp.
bones.
No,
Is that
they
the only
took
issue?
the bones out. The way
Yeah, I
when
haven't-
they filleted it.
I haven't looked up the filleting process. Is it like most everything else? Is it more
It's probably like a pike.
more like a pike?
Because they got Y bones.
Yeah.
A lot of them are at the tail too. When they were, man, there was a ton.
Yeah.
But the way they did it, I'm just saying, we need to get back to carp being a fish that we need to eat and
I
people
agree.
target.
I agree.
Yep. See?
I've had silver carp and they are very good. I haven't had common carp, like the big orange ones.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the one they had.
I think that's what you're. Yeah. So like back in the day, they used
Like
to stock
the
those
Asian
everywhere.
carp or whatever, I guess.
So the
Common
silver
carp.
carp are from
Common
Asia,
carp. Okay.
and then the common carp are from Europe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
Right.
So they used to stock those all over the place. The Asian, or the silver carp are accidental introductions. Those weren't
Okay.
on purpose. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. The common carp were on purpose.
Common carp were on purpose.
Yeah. Because, I mean, they get big. They're fun to catch. There's a huge market for fishing for common carp in Europe. I mean,
Yeah.
they're really big over there. It's like
They
walk
use a
into
lot of fly
shop.
tackle, right?
Yeah.
But
It's like
then
a
over
trout
here, it's
fly
not.
shop here.
And
No.
over here, nothing.
No.
Carp are trash. All carp are trash.
Yeah.
It's kind of like bullhead. We used to
Forget
throw
about 'em.
bullhead in lakes, and now we're like, ugh, bullhead. That's,
The only thing carp are fun for is the little kids put their quarter in at the dock. They get the,
Yeah.
exactly.
they get the dog food and they throw it out there and they can watch them.
Yep.
That's like
We used to fish
we
for
just
them.
feed them so they get bigger.
We used to fish
We
for
don't
them
even harvest
for
them.
fun, but we never kept them. But we would throw out this homemade dough bait. It was Wheaties and Big Red.
Grandpa's dough bait again.
No, that's not the 20-year-old cheese
Grandpa's
bait.
cheese bait.
No, but it was Wheaties and Big Red was the mixture in a cup. You'd get like a 32-ounce cup from the gas station with your
Red?
Big Red and your Wheaties, and you'd
Big Red, like the
The
drink
cinnamon?
pop,
The-
the Texas
Oh,
drink.
I was thinking big red
I was
cinnamon.
thinking,
No.
it's like, are you chewing a pack of gum and spitting it in your Wheaties?
No, it's the soda pop that's it's kind of
Oh,
hard to
yeah,
find
yeah,
up
Is
here.
it cream soda?
It's like a
It's a red
but it's a
cream
really 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 sweet
Yeah.
like I don't know candy tasting soda pop. And it becomes this like dough ball, and we would throw it out there, and we'd leave our bales open and just watch them, and the line would just start running because felt like they wouldn't pick up on a taut line because they want to pick it up and run away with it, and then you go up there and you set the bail and you run backwards and set the hook, and that was it.
Yeah, they do fight pretty good.
They fight pretty good,
That's cool.
but we never kept them.
I mean, bowfish. you
I like
see
shooting
that.
them with bows.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
so much fun.
That's like the most I see people do.
Yeah.
But
So with carp though, you don't recommend that for ponds too because it's the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
They'll compete for that small bluegill or the small fish that need that algae.
Mm-hmm.
These carp are, competing for your same food source. Now some people might think they need to keep the grass down, but
Okay, yeah. So there is a third species called the grass carp.
Yep.
So that's what you're talking about. That eats the plants.
Yep.
We actually do stock those, but we breed those in our hatcheries, and they are sterile when they're stocked. They're diploid, so it's impossible for them to reproduce.
gotcha.
And so it's a really easy way to kind of control your submerged vegetation. Like,
Uh-huh.
when you're fishing and you get hung up on that mat stuff that's in the water, they really focus on that kind of plant and eat those.
So that grass carp's okay, and they might eat some of the same stuff, but they won't hurt.
Yeah, it's like in moderation for
Yeah,
sure.
in moderation.
You don't want to overstock because then it goes back to habitat. If you stock too many grass carp, they're going to knock back all your good plants that have all your bugs on them.
Yeah.
And you don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So we stock. I think it's like 2 to 4 fish per acre when we stock, and I don't want to honestly go over 3.
Yeah.
'Cause I'm just a little worried to tell someone to stock a bunch of grass carp in their lake, and it just goes to not well.
Yeah.
So, but
then they're calling you for a fish kill.
yeah. Where
So-
are my plants at?
Yeah.
So in grass carp and common carp, is it the only way to tell the difference? Maybe with like from a boat or something, is the color really, or they kind of have a different look to them?
Yeah. So grass carp are like cigar shaped. They're like kind of more round and tubular, and a common carp is a little bit more like compressed laterally, kind of like a bluegill. Not so much, but when you compare the two, that's how it looks.
Oh, gotcha.
But yeah, a common carp is going to have the orange, red kind of
Yeah.
color, and grass carp are like gray brown kind of.
Gotcha.
So yeah, and the biggest thing too, common carp, which I don't know if you'd see from a boat, but they have the barbels, like kind of koi fish.
Yeah.
That's kind of what they have. Yeah, but grass
That's what
carp
we
don't
were
have that.
seeing
One
out
have
at
that?
Smithville, right, Josh?
Which one have that?
The common carp.
Probably.
Carp.
We were crappie fishing. We saw they would hang out certain time of year. They get around these stumps and they get up to the very top of the water, and they're just
Oh yeah, when we were back in that cove,
they're just
Yeah.
I don't know what they're doing.
they were
Do you know what
sunning
they're doing?
themselves or something.
No, I don't know what they're doing.
I don't know if they're in a spawn setting or what, but like back of these creeks, there just be like around timber, but at the very surface of the water, so you can see them all, and they're all grouped up, and they're like, I don't know, look like they're eating the air, like sometimes going above water and just mouthing nothing.
Right,
I don't know.
trying to eat cottonwood seeds or something.
I don't know what they're doing, but they're just being weird.
Huh.
I think those are common carp though.
I think they are.
Yeah.
But back to the ANS with the zebra mussels. I'd like to get your hot take
that's
on
the
that.
other one.
Yeah. In what regard? Like, is there a light at the end of the tunnel?
Light at the end of the tunnel. Where are we at? How's it looking? Everybody doing their part?
Yeah. We're trying to educate the public right now on, making sure that your vessels, when you leave a zebra mussel contaminated water body, is cleaned and dried. You pull the plug out when you go down the road and get put out of the lake, so it drains all that water out of there. Kind of being responsible with what you put in the water, so that if you go from a lake with zebra mussels to a lake without zebra mussels, you're not transferring those over back and forth.
Can you explain how they transfer? Because they always say clean, drain, dry, but like, is there a visual way to know if your boat is contaminated?
So I think the bulk of what that's preventing, they reproduce in the summertime, and they're called veliger larvae, and they're like almost microscopic. You can't see them. So they can kind of get sucked up into your motor. They can get, when you're pumping in water for your live well, anything that's like because they're in the water. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of how they get on your boat. And then, so then when you back down a boat ramp and start your motor up, the water that's sitting in your motor that has potentially zebra mussel larvae in there could dump into the water of this new lake. And there you go.
How long do those larvae live?
I'm not sure. I know zebra mussel, the adults, like the actual shelled adult, can live for quite a while out of water, longer than you'd think. But I'm not sure how long. So we usually recommend to dry out your boat for about a week after you put into a body of water that has zebra mussels.
When you go, we went to Minnesota 4 years ago, I think, and we went off to some pilot lakes, and they have like a dude with a hose there that'll spray the bottom of your boat before you put in.
Really?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was thinking, well, that's kind of a good idea, because then, before you put into, that body of water, at least he's, it's something.
Yeah. There's a boat ramp that I go to frequently, and it's got like this trailer with like a vacuum built into it and a hose, like this whole like boat cleaning trailer, like free. You just wash your boat for free after you get out of the water. I'm like, man, we need to get this at more boat ramps. More people would actually clean their boats.
Well, and to your point of our people, I don't know if you said, like
people doing their part.
Yeah, if you're doing your part, but I'm just envisioning, like, you pull out of a lake, you hook up to your trailer, you pull your boat plug out, and you drive off.
Mm-hmm. That's what most people do.
And then you're putting in at the next lake. Like, because I think, to the point of it not being a visual thing, it's hard for people to grasp something that's there that they can't see.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
There's not something latched onto the bottom of their boat where they're like, oh, I need
not
to
a
get that
barnacle.
off. Yeah, it's not a barnacle.
Yeah.
Right. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So that's tough to, and maybe having these washing
That washing station's
stations
awesome.
or whatever
'Cause
at
my live
some
well,
of these lakes,
yeah,
would be something that, maybe
more people would
works.
use it for sure. But my live well holds water, so like it doesn't completely drain.
Or you staff it.
Yeah.
You have we staff those people at the cash boxes to pay to go in. Okay, so what's one other person that's up at the deal, and you come up, quick
hose
1-2 minute hose down on your boat before you drive
Dang,
off.
you could just get a bunch of Cub Scouts at the boat ramps cleaning everybody's boats.
There you go.
Probably do it for, I don't know,
Community
throwing out
service.
ideas.
Yeah. No, that'd be great. That'd be really awesome.
Cade's going to take it back to the office and jot it down.
See what I can do.
I'm going to start staffing.
That'd be a great Cub Scout
Staff
project.
these zebra infested lakes with, boat washers.
Yeah. So I mean, there are talks of doing something like that. I think right now
Knew it.
we're building like a sort of like decontamination station to take to certain lakes and kind of starting getting that message out there of like
Right.
how important this is to make sure your stuff's clean when you put it out. And it just takes a lot of effort and money and time
Sure.
to
Yeah.
set that infrastructure.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think it's definitely a good idea.
Yeah.
Because a lot of those western states and South Dakota, Minnesota, they're doing it. So I think that
Minnesota, you want to talk about sticklers on their lakes.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they're checking. You pull up before you put your boat in, and the dude he's looking and like, what's going on here? Just gotta check your boat.
Yeah.
You want to make sure there's no vegetation stuck in a prop. There's no, and they look before you go in. Everybody. And it wasn't a giant lake, so that's the other thing too. It's not like a Smithville on a Sunday at about 10, and you got tons of boats, right? And like, what are we waiting? Half hour to launch here. This was a off lake. They got so many.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This was a lot easier. It's not like there was a giant line of boats, but
that take a while for sure.
yeah, I mean,
But you brought up a good point with like invasive plants. I mean, the biggest things we think of are the zebra mussels and the Asian carp or silver carp, but curly leaf pondweed's a big one we're trying to battle right now. Hydrilla is huge, especially in Florida. There's a couple of localized spots in Missouri, but we know where they are. We're staying on top of it, spraying them, treating them, but those are things you don't want in your system at all.
Eurasian milfoil.
Eurasian milfoil, yeah.
That one sucks.
What's a good grass?
Like coontail is good. It gets out of control a little bit, but with grass carp you can kind of control it back. It doesn't like explode like hydrilla does.
I didn't know hydrilla wasn't okay. Obviously, I'm not the big fisherman. I love to fish. The reason why, so when I looked up earlier and it said hydrilla, I'm like, what? Every time I watch these pros are like, gotta fish the hydrilla.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I thought that was like good. Yeah, they're fishing the hydrilla. Apparently, it's bad.
Yeah.
It's real bad. Yeah.
So I've been Scrooged.
It's holding the food for them. That's why they're fishing it.
yeah.
We need
takes
more
over.
hydrilla.
It takes over. It's got. I mean, it's good cover, but I hate fishing in it sometimes because it just gets on
snagged
everything.
Up on everything.
But
Yeah,
Those
so
guys
that
are probably in Florida that you're talking about?
Yeah,
Yeah.
typically you're down there. Yeah,
there's some lakes around here that have a decent amount.
a little bit.
Yeah,
But-
down by Springfield, there's a lot of work being done to
Really?
kind of prevent that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But what's the outlook on zebra mussels in the future? Is there anything that's going to get them under control? Are they ever going to go away, or are we just kind of stuck with them?
I think it's difficult to say. There's been some looking into like freshwater drum. They eat mollusks, and so there's a potential for those to kind of start to eat those zebra mussels and control that. But they're just so prolific.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of hard to say. I'm not really sure if I have an answer for that.
Yeah, because you got to take out what's existing, and how do you do that without killing other species
Exactly.
or plants or whatever? And then two, you got to have people buy in that also don't transport it somewhere else. It's like this twofold thing, and both are hard to get under control without.
Where
Yeah.
did they even come from?
Russia. Yeah, they're Russia.
Ruskies.
I think it came out of ballast water out of a container ship in the Great Lakes in like the 80s, I think.
Huh.
And that's how they got introduced.
Really?
Yeah. The funny thing is,
So it was Minnesota's fault.
but like, if you think of how bad they are, there's a ton of reasons why they're bad. They outcompete for native mollusks and everything. But what they are really good at is filtering out water. So, a lot of our fish are sight feeders. So the clearer the water you can make, the more efficient they can be at catching their food. So there is a little bit of like, well, I mean, they're 90% bad, but there is kind of like a little 10%. You're like, oh, this could be okay.
The fishing's going to be a little bit better.
Yeah,
maybe.
exactly.
I got you.
And it's bad because it outcompetes the native mollusks.
Yeah, outcompetes native mollusks, and then it really just like damages infrastructure really badly. Dams and boats that are sitting in the water.
Yeah.
So,
Gotcha.
But there's no real negative impact on the fish from the zebra mussels.
I mean,
Well, if the habitat,
Yeah, I mean, it's never good when you're kind of removing a piece of that ecosystem that's always been there. Yeah, I mean, like they do clear up the water, and that helps with like sight feeders like bass, But taking out, doing all that filtering, and kind of reducing that nutrient contents can be bad too. So
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So many questions, man.
I know. A lot. But
Does Smithville
what
have
are you
one?
going to do?
Yeah, Smithville has them. Yeah.
Can you name a
That's
lake
what I thought.
in Kansas or Missouri that does not have zebra mussels?
Longview Lake doesn't have them. A lot of the lakes on Reed.
Really?
I think the only two MDC lakes that in my region that I know have them are Blue Springs and Jacomo,
Gotcha.
and Prairie too.
That don't have them?
That do have them. That do have them. Yeah.
Gotcha.
And Smithville, but
Yeah.
and the Missouri River, it has it too. So
Oh, okay.
So we have like a decontamination station at our work where if I put on Blue Springs or the river, I come back to the office and it's a steam wash, so it kills all the larvae that might be on the boat, and we disinfect it before we put it on another water body. So
Gotcha.
Nice. That's awesome.
slow the spread.
So, I know me and Pat like to fish Smithville towards the end of this podcast. Like it's a core lake. It's used for flood management, I think, primarily, but we're hoping the largemouth would get better and the grass would grow back and all this stuff. But is that possible on a lake like that, or is some of the core necessities of water level management, is that going to always take over some of that and trump any type of other? Like sometimes I feel like during the right times we're letting water out or that type of stuff, and it kind of hurts maybe some of the spawn, it hurts some of the grass levels, things like that. I didn't know if you knew anything about that.
I don't. I can't speak to Smithville specifically. I think that they try to keep the water level pretty consistent though. But at times, like high water levels, there's going to be fluctations for sure. But I can't speak to that specifically. But one good thing about the past 2 years, we've had a historic drought. In the whole Midwest actually. So you think about it, all of that water level and all the ponds and lakes has dropped off significantly.
Yeah,
given a chance for plants to come up, and now we have had a lot of rain, a lot of wet periods, so that's vegetation's flooded again. So it kind of creates a new habitat for those fish to spawn out, eat food, that sort of thing. So
yeah, I can see that.
Yeah,
because we were definitely down. I felt like the Smithville area was down 2 to 3 foot for a long time, pretty consistent. Just remember going out there and seeing the same looking bank line, in the same areas. And I think last winter it was the lowest I've ever seen it. And now we're above, I think, full for a little bit. So all that, like you said, all that grass comes down, which we need it, because sometimes Smithville feels like a bowl of nothing,
Right.
You got a couple rocks and trees.
Some rocks, stump here and there, and
yeah, exactly. And when the water drops and like all those flats are
muddy
exposed,
water,
and then it just slopes off. Yeah, it's hard for sure.
So now it comes up. Now
And
we
with
might
it
have a little
being
more
our-
contours, a little more grass. Yeah.
we're just like, with it being our home lake, like we were talking about, just like I just wanted to thrive because I want to go out there and know that I got some good bass fishing on hand.
Yeah. Do you know much about the fish kill at Smithville from the 90s? Like this is old
This is
history.
old,
No, I don't.
So it's yeah.
Was it?
I've always
Was it
wanted to-
1990?
I've always wanted to inquire about it because like the flood of '93, because that changed a lot of.
Was that the year it did it
everything.
or no?
'93 was the big flood. So, but I'm gonna go like late '80s. Supposedly, Smithville was in line for the Bass Pro. They were gonna hold a classic event there. You could catch double-digit bass. All this stuff. And then this giant fish kill came in I think the 90s, around then, something like that.
Yeah, early 90s.
Early 90s. And from that point on, you just like no big bass. It just turned into kind of what it is today. You know, you can go out there 2-3 pounders every now and again. You know, you get some 5 to 8, but nothing huge.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't know if
Greg. It's funny because Greg remembers it before it even got flooded.
Yeah, I was always
So he
curious if the
remembers
lake,
the old roads, and
what he remembers before the fish kill was like almost a false, you know, a false. Well, how would I say that?
False reality.
It felt, yeah, a false reality to what the lake could be. Like it was just constructed. What was it? Late 70s or I think. It was,
I wonder if it.
Can't
Yeah,
did they tell you
you're
when
not far off.
Yeah.
I mean, you're within a few years.
You're
probably.
talking
You know, it's
less
like-
than
it was
20 years.
Yeah, it was like constructed, and then like that 10 years, towards the end of that 10-year mark, you know, the fish was great.
Yeah.
And it was almost like too good. There's too much. The fish are too big. Something happened, and then maybe there's a weather event, and then we kind of started over, and now it's, you know, if we're 30 years into it now or something like that, and it's just kind of been where
This
it's
is
at.
just what it is.
You know, I don't know if New Lakes. I feel like New Lakes could do that at the beginning because
Maybe
they're
give
just
you false hope of this is going to be
There's so much fresh nutrients in that water.
it's all new for
right
the
when
first
they
10
flooded,
years.
everything is.
Yeah.
That's
that's
true.
The best. Yeah, that's the best fishing when a lake is newly flooded. That's the best part of that lake's life cycle for the fishery, because you know all that flooded timber, all that flooded land with all the plants on it.
Never
It's interesting.
thought about
Explode
that.
productivity.
Yeah.
I never thought about that,
Yeah.
Chandler. So
Well,
they flood it, and now you've got all this structure under the water that hasn't deteriorated, all these trees abundant, the woodlands that they flooded and everything. So the fish for the next 10 years are just thriving.
It's perfect.
Yeah, 79 was when it was.
Yep. And then by 1990, basically.
That's when they began, so I don't know exactly, but yeah.
93 when the flood happened, that didn't help. So now I think there was some things that did happen for sure. I know they talked about, you know, I don't know what it was, an oxygen thing,
Yeah.
I believe. Would that happen? So let's just say, you know, they flood the lake, there's all these trees, you've got all this good oxygen levels, if all that deteriorates over the course of 10 years, would you see a dip in that oxygen level from all that vegetation being used up?
Yeah, I mean, maybe. I think a lot of the vegetation is going to die pretty quickly after it gets flooded.
Okay.
And, you know, and then the aquatic vegetation is going to move in. So
Yeah.
I don't know if you'd see necessarily that big of a dip. I think it'd stay pretty
Gotcha.
consistent.
Okay.
As long as you have the good habitat for the sunlight to penetrate down to those submerged plants, and then have the plants on the bank to kind of
Yeah.
produce that. So
we need someone who was obviously this is way before I want the fish biologist that was around 89 to 92.
yeah, I wasn't even alive yet. So
So I want that person.
Start digging.
I
Go to
want
public
that-
records. You'd
I want
probably
that
find it.
person to tell me what happened.
Yeah.
I want to know the true story.
Yeah, we can ask a couple, but I've heard what we hear is just the fishermen talking about
I just
what went
hear
wrong.
the fishermen. I hear the
Like,
bass side of it.
it
It
was-
was the best.
It was the
ever.
best lake in the Midwest up until the fish kill.
And it might have been, but
Yeah, I
we're
don't know.
also getting the bass fishermen.
But I know we've been struggling to promote some good grasses on that lake. We even have, I've seen, and I don't know if I feel like it's MDC working on it, but I've seen areas where they've put gates off so they keep, I don't know, maybe grass carp out of it or something. I don't know what but they're trying to help produce some of these grasses, and they're trying to protect it from getting just obliterated by everything trying to eat all that stuff.
yeah, I do know. So the biologist that works on that lake, he does he works for the Corps of Engineers. The Corps cuts down a lot of the tree, like the cedars,
Yeah.
and some of the hardwoods on like the surrounding area of Smithville. And then he works with the biologist that works on Smithville, and they sink a bunch of habitat every year.
Yeah.
On that lake. And I mean, I think he's seen increases in size structure for bass by doing that.
Yeah.
And so I manage Longview and Blue Springs, and so it's the same core crew that works on all those lakes, and so we're able to all work together and sink habitat on Longview and Blue Springs too every
Yeah.
year. So
Is there a way to know where that habitat is sunk?
Smithville, they tell you.
Yeah, we upload the coordinates onto our website, and I think you can download them straight from there to your fish finder.
Ooh.
I think. I'm pretty sure you can. I think it's called a fish attractor on MDC. If you could Google that, it'll probably find it.
Yeah, I think they show you where they sink them.
So I've Googled maps of brush piles and stuff, and it shows you some. But then when you go into your electronics and you're just side scanning,
Some
whatever,
of it too,
you
can
find
find
so
on the
many
Mo
more.
Fishing app. On the Mo Fishing app, sometimes you can.
Yeah, and it should have the date that they
So
put in there, and then the kind of habitat that it is. So hardwood, cedar.
So
wonder
like
if it would
it's just
load.
a GPX file.
So I can download that, throw it on
Oh,
a
I gotta
micro
go look
SD,
at
and throw it
another
in my
link.
fish finder.
I'm pretty sure you can. Yeah,
I need to
I need to
get on
download
that.
yeah. It's a really good resource we use.
See all these
we put out
little-
there. Yeah, just like that.
Whoa!
So if you click on one of those,
That's on the
it'll
Mo
show you
Fish app.
when it was.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
If you're listening to this podcast and you're in Missouri, this is probably one thing to take away from
Then
it.
you can click on
It's
it.
where the brush piles are.
Where's the brush
It's
piles?
called Fish Attractor, and then it'll tell you what it is. So that's a hardwood fish attractor.
Yeah, and they have.
Hardwood.
I'm gonna download this on my phone right now.
Well, it's a link.
Well, Patrick's got an app,
Oh, okay.
the fishing app.
I'm over here.
And then that's Fish Attractor Rocks and Fish Attractor Hardwood,
You said it was
Fish Attractor Cedar.
Oh, you're able to
Mo
see?
fishing.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the links to download for my fish finder, so
Oh.
I might
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah, why don't you just forward me that link there too?
Okay.
Because last time we were out, I didn't really know where to go
Oh, we're at
when we were
Smithville.
at Smithville. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
We're on it now. Mo Outdoors.
That's the other
Well, they
one.
got like hiking trails and birding and
That
stuff.
tells you all the different parks that you can fish, hunt. That's
Dude.
like a broad overview.
Why does nobody tell me about these things?
So there's Mo hunting.
'Cause you're
Mo
from
outdoors,
Kansas.
and there's Mo fishing.
Yeah. MDC's got it going on. Let me tell you. They just want you to get out there and hunt and fish.
Heck
Yes.
yeah, they do. I could definitely say that for sure.
Well, what's your favorite species to work with?
Are
Are you
That's a good
still doing
question.
research? Like, or are you just managing
No,
waters at this
so
point?
I'm working up the data from the Creel survey, and we're going to kind of try to see what else we can find from that. Kind of some social science stuff with the angler demographics that we interviewed for that
Mhm.
project. I've worked with pallets. I've worked a lot of fish. I think my favorite fish to work with is probably like flatheads because they're so, especially big ones, are just very violent and they're just cool when you shock
Yeah.
them up. You know.
Oh yeah. When you
They're probably
shock them,
my favorite
they're pretty cool.
Yeah, they just go nuts.
They're pretty cool.
Yeah, and this is just one of those, like if you throw a flathead in basically anywhere in North America, I mean, it's going to be the top predator, hands down. So
See,
they're just a really cool
see,
fish.
Josh, top predator.
I told you. Better than bass. Tell Tommy.
Predator. Top predator. Except for them bull sharks that get up the Mississippi.
Yeah, those
And
two.
when you recommend for stalking, you recommend channel cats or flatheads.
I mean, yeah, you could stock flatheads if you want to. I guess I'd never really recommended that.
Well, I've always, and I might be wrong, I've always heard that flatheads like, live bait,
Mhm.
where channels, you can get away with using, stink bait, cheese bait, whatever,
Yeah.
hot dogs, that
Whatever
type of
you want to
stuff.
use.
Which
yeah.
that might be better for, the kids out fishing or whatnot. But
Mhm. So one thing about flatheads and channel catfish, flatheads are strictly piscivores, so they're going to eat the live bait. They're only going to go after the fish. Channel catfish are omnivores, so they're going to eat dead stuff. They're going to eat plants, insects, other fish. So the good thing about channel catfish in a private pond is they're not going to compete directly with the fish you want to keep,
Yeah.
like bass, crappie.
So if you're going to have bass, crappie, or whatever, a channel cat would be a good
yeah, I mean, you get
one to put in there.
alternative.
the
Yeah.
flathead would
'Cause
be
they're
eating
not
all your
competing.
bluegill.
Yeah,
Mhm.
a flathead's gonna eat everything. Just like your 10-pound bass, there's like,
Yeah.
So you definitely don't want to throw those guys in there. But
Gotcha.
but if you want a flathead fishery, I mean, it'd definitely be a good option to just throw them in there. It'd be kind of cool, actually.
Yeah, if that's what you're going for.
Yeah, that's what you're going for. Yeah,
that's true.
I bet you can grow some big ones.
Yeah, I bet you could too.
That's awesome.
Big blue cats.
Yes. All right, let's all go fishing.
Okay, I'm down.
For real. Do you got to work the rest of the day, or do you let them know? You're like, hey, I got something going on. I don't know how long it's going to take. Then you call them at like 3:34. We just got done.
Yeah, I got to go back, unfortunately.
Oh, no.
Dang.
Well, this has been enjoyment for sure.
Yep.
All sorts of stuff. I mean, we could probably go on forever, honestly, talking about, every species and every a lot of the info too that Cade's talking about you can find on the MDC website, or if you have questions, I mean, a lot of their contacts are on there. You can call, hey, I got a fish kill possibly, things like that, or hey, you need help stocking, what should I stock, can you come look at my pond, I need help. So all that stuff we kind of discussed is on there as well. Or you can shoot over emails to them, his contacts on there. So but yeah, this has been great.
Yeah.
It always gets me jacked up after these two, because then I want to go do it. I'm like, nope, got to work the rest of the day.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
Thanks for having me on
I
here.
love it. No, this is a blast.
Yeah.
It was perfect timing. It's fishing, everybody's out and about. So, and if you all have questions or something we didn't cover, feel free to shoot us a message too, and I can always forward it on and see if we can't get some answers for you from Cade. So, make sure you like, subscribe, follow us on all of our social media platforms. Spread the word. Thanks for hanging out with us today. And as always, be safe and enjoy the weekend. Until next time, peace.
It's time for me to go, burn all bridges.